What a dumb little family barbecue reminded me about sales and our teams. So the other day we were at a little vacation this past weekend, and we had a bunch of people, kind of friends of the family, if you will. It's a family deal. So I'm there with my parents and my brother and our family's there. And we had a little reunion outside, mind you, with a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in ages. And one of the things that my family likes to do, so my dad and my brother are really good at music. My brother can sing really well, and my dad was in a band back in the day, and yada yada, and I play the guitar a little bit, right? Sometimes I sing, blah blah. I'm not going to sing for you here, but it was really kind of a funny experience. So I love screwing around and playing the guitar with the kiddos, right? I play a hell of a Baby Shark, Old MacDonald. Like, we got a whole playlist in the medley, with the kiddo guitar stuff. But I'll screw around and play with different songs, and so like I can get pretty close on this one solo, and it was really, really funny playing in front of these other people. It's like, the reality is, if I'm being honest, I don't really care sort of what their thought of my musical ability or evident lack thereof is not going to change my life in any way, shape, or form, right? There's no impact on my life, but there was a quote unquote audience at this thing, and it was hilarious. It makes no sense that I was as nervous as I was. It was again completely illogical, but like, my fingers are like, oh, they're not operating the way I'd want them to. They're a little twitchy, and so it was funny. It's like, I'm doing this solo that I do, like playing in front of the kids or whatever, or just picking around at my house with no one around, and doing it, and I do it just fine. Then I'm like missing stuff that I don't typically miss, and so the reality is, like, guess what I hadn't done, right? The thing that I do in any of my public speaking or presentations, things like that, is like, I didn't practice until, like, you don't want to practice until you get it right. You want to practice until you can't get it wrong. And so the reality is, like, I've practiced to the point where, I can get it right every once in a while. But when put in a quote unquote pressure situation, like, I fucked it up. And so how do we think that compares to our salespeople? He said, oh yeah, well, I don't do well when we do this role play type thing. Well, do you think that salesperson is going to be more nervous or less nervous when there's actual money, actual commission, whatever it is on the line? Like, probably more. And even if it is less, right? So even if they would do better with individuals that they are quote unquote less nervous with, the reality is, I don't want somebody who can maybe perform to a given standard some of the time when they're not nervous. I want them to be able to get to the point where they can't fucking get it wrong. And so there are certain things, right? So it was interesting. Like, there's one song that I play the solo, and like, I've gotten it right a couple times, right? Or I get it right, whatever. Let's say it's 75% of the time when I do it on my own, every once in a while. Again, I'm not like playing every day, right? And I messed it up. No big deal. It's funny. Like, it was a very low stakes environment where probably nobody noticed, but it's just like me in my head, like, oh, I'm like kind of nervous and kind of gunking it up. There's other stuff that I played for like so long and have on point, which, yeah, it just happens without me thinking about it. So there gets to be a point where like, whether it's, salespeople or, customer service, or, like handling, customer complaints and issues and things like that, we're like, man, I don't want my people to be able to answer the thing correctly, one time. I want them to be able to do it until they can't get it wrong. And so in reality, like, you want your people, so we teach people the Dan Sullivan question, right? It's one of my favorite sales questions of all time. Just a great question in general, right? So if we're sitting here X amount of months looking back on our time working together, what would have to have happened? What progress would you have to see for you to say, holy crap, like, working with these crazy people at this crazy gym was like the best thing I ever did for my health and fitness, right? There are variations of that you can play with, but the reality is, like, we want people to have that and have it happen, have it roll off their tongue like the back of their hand. Right? Because only when you have things down to a point where you can't get it wrong can you start to improvise, right? And so when you start to get to where you know songs like the back of your hand, and you're not thinking about, oh, where does this finger go and yada yada yada. That's a title of your sex tape. Where does this finger go? When you're not thinking about those little individual things, now all of a sudden you can actually like kind of have fun and play music a little better. Same thing, I use football analogies all the time. So like, when you're just starting off, if you got your seventh grader Pee Wee football quarterback going up to the line of scrimmage, and he's so worried about getting the snap, right, just getting the ball from under center, like he can't think about anything else. He's already forgotten the play. He doesn't know where it's going. He's going to turn around and hope somebody's going in a direction and try to give him the ball. Whereas you think about somebody who's been doing it for years and years and years and years, and as the comfort level improves, or it's like, okay, I don't have to think about this part, right? I'm not thinking about getting the snap, and now I know where the play is going, so I don't have to think about what's happening with the given play. I can just go up and execute and look what I'm doing. At that point, now you can start to be able to look at what the defense is doing. Okay, you start to be able to pay attention to what the other party is giving to you, if you will. So you think about that from a sales perspective. If you have somebody who like, oh yeah, they can get like this line, or they remember even if you don't have a script, they remember the process and yada, like most of the time, they're kind of working through it, if you will. If they don't have that stuff like the back of your hand, down like the back of their hand, then they're not going to be able to actually listen and pay attention to the person sitting across from them. And if they can't pay attention to what the defense is doing, they're not going to be able to adjust what they're doing to be able to serve that person the best, right? In the case of, offense, defense, football, like we want to be able to kick their ass. In the case of a sales conversation, right, we want to be able to come to the most mutually beneficial solution for both parties, right? And you're not going to be able to find that if you're not actually listening to the other person. And you're not going to be able to listen to the other person if you don't know exactly where your song is going, right, before you get there. If you're thinking so hard about, okay, what's this line and how do I act? If they're thinking about that the entire time, they're not going to be able to get you where you want to go. And if they don't have a process, right, if they don't have a playbook, like you're leaving everything up to chance, and so you're probably fucked anyway. So the reality is, like, you need a playbook, you need to have a song, and you want your people to, or you, if you're doing all these things, you want to know how that song goes, or know that playbook, know whatever it is, to where you cannot possibly get it wrong. You just know it, it's in there, you can't screw it up. And then you can focus on whatever, your improvisation. At that point, you can do the different things that sort of make you great at what you do, and listen to those individuals, serve them as effectively as you can, and have an awesome business, right? And provide an awesome service for people. So that's all I got for today. Hope that's useful. Love, hugs. Talk soon.